All right, welcome back to the Sons of UCF. I am really honored today to have our guest with us here. His name is Lee Pace, and he's got quite an accomplished bio. He has been a writer for GoHeels.com for quite a long time now. He's also the sideline reporter for Tar Heel Sports Network, and you might know him from his book, Football in a Forest, The Life and Times of Keenan Stadium. This man probably knows more about North Carolina than anybody out there, I assume, Lee. So I can't thank you enough for taking some time to join us here in the Sons of UCF.
Adam, absolutely happy to be here. It'll be nice to get this series finally off the road. It's been stop and go for quite a while. Tried to do it in 2018 and again in 2020, but a hurricane got in the way, and then COVID got in the way.
Yeah, it feels like these programs have been circling each other for a while, Lee. And if you had told me in 2018 when that series was supposed to start that we wouldn't play until 2025, and that when we played, Bill Belichick and Scott Frost would be the respective head coaches, I might have said you were crazy, but that's where we are, Lee. So obviously you've been around Carolina a long time. Can you kind of take me through what were your initial reactions and thoughts when it kind of became apparent to you that Bill Belichick was indeed an option and was indeed going to be the choice for the North Carolina head coaching job?
Well, at first, Adam, I thought it was crazy. I just didn't see the fit there at all. But then once you understood it was real and that it could happen, and then inevitability that it did happen, you start to peel back the layers and look at the backstory, and you see why this would appeal to both sides. Nobody realized it at the time, but Bill has remembered and cherished his very short period of time in Chapel Hill as a youngster when his dad was on the coaching staff of George Barkley in the mid 1950s. And in my book that you mentioned, I just happened to hope you can see that of a young boy sitting in Keenan Stadium. This book was published in 2016. And I did some research, and I knew that Bill Belichick's dad had been on the staff. And I found out that I don't know how I came across the photo of of a young Bill in Keenan Stadium, but I knew it existed. I called the Patriots office. I was able to get an original copy of it and use it in the book. And so Bill has kept his dad's coaching sweatshirt for 70 years. That he's kept, and he and his dad were very, very close, and they spent a lot of time together. And his dad spoke very glowingly of his time at Chapel Hill and that he liked Carolina. And so, and another fascinating element to this was Bill Belichick's first job offer out of college in 1975 was in college football. It was to NC State over in Raleigh, just a half hour to our east. Lou Holtz offered him a job as he was coming out of Wesleyan College. And Holtz had to renege on the offer very soon after offering it because of some financial issues in his university, and he didn't have the money he thought he was going to have. So, what if Bill Belichick, his first job had been in college coaching? The career may have been totally different. So, anyway, he is essentially a teacher and an educator, and this was a good environment for him. I think he and his associates, Mike Lombardi and several others, they had soured on the NFL idea, and by all accounts, the NFL had soured on him. So It was just it was a move that made sense in a lot of ways for a lot of people.
Well, yeah, I'd love your insight, right? From outside looking in, it feels like there's been a bit of tumult as Belichick has come to the Carolinas, of course, and all the gossip stuff notwithstanding, just his kind of fit in college football, some of the things he's done. But you're there, day in and day out. So from the outside perspective, we might be perceived as seeing a lot of tumultuous movement. What have you seen from the inside as Belichick's kind of integrated into Chapel Hill and integrated into this football program?
Well, two elements of that. Number one is there's the storyline that this was just a placeholder job, that he was just going to come for a year, maybe two, and then get the right offer and go back into the NFL. There is absolutely nothing to that story. I can assure you that this man is locked and loaded on coaching this team, this program at this university. He is they say there's no grind like a Belichick grind, and that's what people in Kenan Stadium or Kenan Fieldhouse or Football Center have learned the last 8 months, that he is in there early morning. He's in there at all hours. He is working hard. He has developed quite a bit of respect and affinity for the history of the program, because he's got some connections with Lawrence Taylor. He was with the Giants when he drafted LT in the 1981 draft. It was, and he can cite chapter and verse of all the great players. So he is very highly engaged in working on this. And certainly in late April and early May, the Jordan Hudson story was a media firestorm. It took off. It was all over the nation and the world. And for whatever reasons, it has quietened down 99%. Jordan is still around. She's come to the game. She'll occasionally be at practice, but she is not that visible around the program, around town that much. She has very much bled into the background and is doing what Bill has said that she is there to do, is to be a personal relationship and handle some of his personal business connections. So those are two, I think, themes that seem to be out there on a nationwide basis that are just not issues here close to the program at all.
I'm curious, how have the players kind of taken to Coach Belichick? Obviously, I know the roster's turned over a bunch since he got on campus, but for the core group of players that have been there, what's their reaction been to having Belichick as coach? Have you seen kind of the way that relationship has evolved in his time there at Chapel Hill?
Yeah, two big things there. Number one is they all just speak in unison as to how much they learn in film study and in the meeting room with him. And assistant coaches have echoed that as well. There are a couple of holdovers from the previous staff that are here now, and just talk about they're amazed of his knowledge of so many elements of the game on all three sides of the ball. Even though he played offense as in college and high school, and he coached defense, but he's as involved as those. He's involved on both sides as well as the kicking game as well. But just the players will talk about how, I need to pay attention in this meeting and see what else I can learn. And then they learn from him on the practice field. For 2.5 hours, he is locked and loaded, roaming the practice field from one position group to another. I've had one assistant tell me that literally this man could coach any position on the team, any of 9 positions, and do it as well as a full-time guy who specialized in that job, over 20 years. One thing that he really enjoys doing is before they get into the meat of the practice is he pulls the guys who are the field goal block team and works with them for 10 or 15 minutes. And it is a laboratory in angles, projection, handwork, how you dive, your get off, how you double team guys, how you attack blockers, on just trying to block a field goal. And so that's something else. And of course there's the star element of it. Here's Bill Belichick, but then they realize he's just another guy. He's just a guy in there leading them and coaching them, and in there grinding with them every day.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of parallels between UCF and North Carolina, kind of where they were, where they are. Obviously, Gus Malzahn leaving UCF and kind of the rebuild that Scott Frost is now underway with here in Orlando, and kind of very similar in North Carolina, right? So walk me through, or I guess share with me, how tough a job is this that Bill took? Obviously, Mac Brown, leaving at the end of last year. How tough a job, how tough a rebuild has this been really for Coach Belichick as he's taken over and tried to kind of, again, get this program back to the spots it wants to be at?
Well, it's difficult, number one, because there was a coaching change made before. So those changes aren't made unless there are problems. So
Sure.
That's the first thing he had to do. But one thing going in Bill's favor that previous coaches have not had is that the university administration, Chancellor Lee Roberts, is 100% all in on football. And in order to get Bill Belichick to take this job, they had to commit not only the resources to pay him, but to pay his staff, to pay the support staff, to have NIL money available, to have a recruiting budget, to do all the things that a new coach wants to do. I'm sure they said no to something, but for the most part, he's gotten what he's wanted. And Carolina is kind of derisively referred to as the sleeping giant, and has been referred to that for decades, not many years, but decades. And each coach who has come in has had a period of time where they have been very successful, but they've just not been able to sustain it and keep it going for any number of reasons. But one thing that Belichick has going is the resources and the commitment from the university administration. Realizes how important the sport of football is in the new landscape of college athletics. And it's time to go all in and push all our chips to the table.
Let's talk a little bit about kind of the opening of this era. Obviously, a lot of folks watched that game, Lee, against TCU, and certainly not the best result from a Carolina perspective. But I'm curious the aftermath of that game, right? You see what happens. Obviously, you see the score. What did you observe kind of immediately after that game, and how Belichick and the staff kind of got back to work, and what the mindset was, despite knowing that I'm sure game one did not go anywhere close to what anybody had expected or anybody had wanted?
Well, it was, I think one thing that helped Adam was it was a short week. That was a Monday night game. And so they had to play Saturday in Charlotte, which means they had to get on the bus and drive 2 hours up to Charlotte on Friday. So they didn't have any time to sit around and mope. And, they'd done some early prep work on getting ready for Charlotte, so that, and the players had to have Tuesday off. They have to have a mandated day off. So they didn't get back on the practice field until Wednesday. And I think everybody realized that I personally was not surprised that TCU won the game. I suspected that they would. I was surprised at the volume of the point differential. I didn't think it would get that out of hand, but it did quickly. And part of that is just old momentum in athletics. And you just, it can get in your favor, or you can get on the downside of it, and you just can't dig out of it. But with 70 new players, with a brand new coaching staff, with an entirely new operation coming together, with all the hoopla and all the media attention and all the build up to it, it was almost impossible to live up to that. And I think everybody realized that. And one of the most spot on passages I heard or read in digesting all the media coverage after that game was, "The circus has left town." And I thought that was just spot on, because when you add all the media, everything that was involved, the hoopla around it, it almost bordered a little on silly when you think about it. So week two just gave them an opportunity to sit back, reload, and get back to playing football. And you knew that Bill would not allow them to do anything but forget that game and move on to the next one.
I'm curious. You've obviously been around Carolina a long time. Up until the kickoff of that game, was that like the biggest football event in North Carolina history? Again, up until kickoff, everything that kind of went into that game.
The 1997 Florida State home game, when both teams were in the top 5 in the country, that was a Saturday night game. Game day was here for the first and last time. I hate to say it, game day has not been back to Chapel Hill since '97. That was very similar. It was a night game. You had all day to wander around town. Franklin Street, which is the main hub in town, was busy, and it was very similar. Those two. I think this was even more so because of just the interest in Bill Belichick, coming to the college game. But it was, and the good part of it was that it showed what Chapel Hill and Carolina can be. It's not going to be that 6 times a year, but it can certainly be that 2, 3, 4 times a year when the right teams are coming to town.
As often is in 2025, Lee, attention spans are short. Obviously, after that TCU game, people's eyeballs move to something else. And Carolina goes on and wins the next 2 games against Charlotte and Richmond, are now a 2-1 football team. So through 3 games, what do you know about this North Carolina football team? What are some things that you feel pretty comfortable saying, I know this about this team already?
You can see some vestiges of it being a Belichick coach team. Number one, they're averaging 4 penalties a game, which is about half of where they were last year. The defense, you can see some sparkle there. You can see some players on that side of the ball. We knew that Andrew Simpson and Thad Dixon were going to be playmakers. They were both from the transfer portal, came from the West Coast. Kamari House is another one, but some other players the last few weeks have started to emerge, and that has made a difference. So you're starting to see some playmakers on defense, and Carolina went 2 weeks without allowing a touchdown, and that's the first time since 2012 that they have gone back-to-back weeks without allowing a touchdown, and they did very well in the latter stages of both the Charlotte and Richmond games of having some reserves in there, but keeping their focus and not allowing a touchdown. And both teams were trying to score touchdowns late in the both of those games. You can see the special teams. You can see that they're going to be solid, that they do the little things well. They've got a good kicker. The punting has improved. The coverage has been good. Simple things, fielding punts has been solid. So those things have all been there. The big question mark, though, Adam, is with the offense. It has not yet established an identity. It hasn't figured out what it's majoring in. Gio Lopez has had some bright spots, but for the most part, he has not shown what everybody had hoped he might. But there again, in his defense, he did not come through. Excuse me. He did not come through spring practice with this team and this staff and this playbook. So he needs some the benefit of the doubt to try and loosen up and see what he can do. And so to answer your questions, those 2 games, they did what Bill and the team needed to do, is just show some progress, show some stabilization, do some little things well. They controlled the middle 8, the last 4 minutes of the first half, the first 4 of the second half, done well. They've just done a lot of things like that well, and hopefully they'll look to build on that Saturday in Orlando.
Let's talk about the offense for a second. One of the things UCF has struggled with is 5 new offensive linemen, getting them on the field, used to each other, acclimated, new systems, new quarterback, new cadence, right? How has Carolina kind of fared in that same realm? Obviously, with a new O-line, a new coaching staff, new quarterbacks. How have you seen that take shape with the Carolina offensive line?
It's been much the same as you cite with the Knights. It's just been couple of injury issues. A couple of kids who were slated to play extensively at center and guard have not played hardly at all. There's been one returning player, Aiden Banfield, from last year. So the rest of it has been piecing together. One true freshman has been there, and several guys from the portal. So they're trying to establish who are the right guys. And as you referenced, communication and connectivity on the O-line are so important. Just over the years, you've seen so many good offenses with great offensive lines, and you look at the depth chart and you've got 4- and 5th-year seniors. Now that's going to be harder and harder to do now with the transfer portal, but still, you really need to develop that continuity on the O-line, and Belichick and general manager Mike Lombardi have said from the beginning, they're going to build this program from the inside out. They're going to look to build the O-lines and D-lines and establish the team there and the program there, and then build outside that.
What about Gio Lopez? Do you get the sense that he's a guy that this staff kind of wants to ride it out with and see how he performs, or do you think there's an element where he's on a shorter leash and other quarterbacks like a Max Johnson at some point make it a look?
Honestly, don't have a feel for that, but I think this is a game where we will really start to let that story play itself out. If he is not productive in this environment, I would certainly think they would open up for some other options.
What about the rushing attack? I found it interesting. Again, a kind of a Belichick coach team. A true freshman doesn't see the field, and all of a sudden is the leading rusher in the last ball game. Tell us a little bit more about this North Carolina rushing attack.
They've got 5 players, running backs, and 4 of them have played a fair amount, and all of them have different skills and different attributes. And it's just been a matter of giving each of them an opportunity and a little time. And at Charlotte last week, Damon June, who is a true freshman from Jacksonville, not highly recruited by Power 4 schools. He had offers from East Carolina and App State and Toledo. And then late in the summer of 24, before his senior year, Carolina got involved and offered him, and so he took that. And but he's a downhill runner. He's powerful. He's got good speed, and he did what all freshmen have to do. You have to just show up and be consistent and secure the ball, and show you got some acumen and pass protection. Because I don't care what kind of running ability, if you can't help in pass protection and can't secure the ball, you're not going to find the field. But that's something he's going to be very good at. But Davion Gauls and Caleb Hood are also a couple other guys with experience and who have seen the field. So Carolina's pretty deep in that area.
Lee, how big a game is this for the Tar Heels? Obviously, you've already played a Power 4 opponent in TCU. For UCF, this is their first Power 4 opponent that they played so far this season. Still a lot unknown there, but obviously this could be a springboard for whatever happens next. How important a game is this for Carolina in terms of where it falls in the schedule and what it means kind of as they kind of move themselves out into ACC play?
I think it's a huge game for both teams, Adam. I thought Mike Bianchi at the Orlando Sentinel this week put it in great perspective, talking about the coaching element of it with Belichick and Frost, and that both of it's kind of a redemption year for both of them. Belichick wants to prove that he can coach at a whole different level than where he's made his bones, and Scott Frost wants to say that the getting fired in Nebraska doesn't mean that he's lost his coaching mojo. So, and this is game 4 for the Tar Heels. They've had the big ballyhooed opener. You breathe a sigh of relief. That's over. You have 2 workmanlike games against FCS teams, and now you're back into the Power 4, a big game on the road in a difficult environment. You got a week off, and then you dig into the ACC. So I think this is huge to continue to build on what they've done the last 2 weeks, and learn more about your team, learn more about your strengths and weaknesses, and set the stage for the rest of the year.
Lee, if North Carolina wins this game on Saturday, why will that be? What will they have to do to come out on top on Saturday?
Continue to build on what they have done the last 2 weeks, play good defense, be solid in special teams, and they've got to move the needle and get better on offense, however they decide to do that. Carolina's only thrown, I believe, for like 450 yards in 3 games, and you've got to go back to 1990 to find a year that they had as little production in the throwing game. Now, part of that was the way these last 2 games have evolved, and they just wanted to hand the ball off and move the clock. But this is time for Gio Lopez to show. His nickname on the team is Magic, because he does things with the football and handling the ball that some teammates thought, well, that looks like Magic Johnson. So he certainly has a resume and some bona fides from South Alabama. Now, hopefully, after three games of live bullets and live action, that he'll settle in and they'll find what he does well and what he can do well, and get him in a rhythm like they haven't done before.
I'm sure you've had a chance to do a cursory review of the UCF and the Knights program. What about facing UCF would concern you if you're a Carolina fan?
Well, certainly the running game is outstanding with the kid who returned the kickoff and had the long touchdowns. And I read where the kickoff return for touchdown was the first since 2017, and that was from our friend Mike Hughes.
Yeah.
Who a lot of us around here still lament the fact that he ever left the program here, because he was a good kid and an excellent player, and still making a dime in the NFL.
Yeah. Let's talk a little bit about this season overall. We've had the debate in Orlando as well, but what would a successful year look like for Bill Belichick in year 1? Is it a win total? Is it progression on the field? Is it a bowl game? What would have to happen this year for you to look back and go, hey, you know what? This year was a success for the Tar Heels.
Number 1, Adam, is be respectable on defense. Carolina has, since Butch Davis left after the 2010 season, Carolina has not been good on defense at all, either under Larry Fedora or Mac Brown. Got maybe okay in 2015, the year Carolina won the ACC Coastal Championship, but still very average on defense. That's number 1. get better as the year goes on and not have a November slide like the Tar Heels did in 22 and 23 after forging their way into the top 10 in the nation. Um, reduce penalties, which I talked about earlier, which so far the returns on that are good. And just show that the team gets better as the year goes on, and get to year number 2 unscathed. And by that I mean, this is a brand new staff, 70 new players, a coaching staff with very little collective college experience, very little experience at the University of North Carolina. They're coming in and learning how to recruit, how to do the NIL, how to do the transfer portal. They're doing so many things for the first time, and they had to hit the ground running in December of 2024. And my desire for this program is to, maybe knock out 8 wins, something like that. Be good on defense. Show you're good in special teams. Get better as the year goes on. Show you're smart and disciplined, and get to year 2 and start to where you can do everything for the second time together. And I think the results will just pay off in spades.
I'm curious, obviously, you get to cover the team, you're around the team a lot. Bill Belichick, obviously in the NFL, has a reputation as, often short with the media at times, right? And doesn't seem like he's there to exchange Christmas cards with everybody in the room in those kind of settings. What's it been like to cover Bill and kind of be around him now on a semi-regular basis in your duties at Go Heels and the Sports Network?
Well, he is still not effervescent in the life of the party, but he has done everything the PR folks have asked him to do. He has been cordial and reasonably talkative in press conferences. I don't think there have been any terse exchanges with anybody. I think he has realized that the college environment is a little different from the pro environment. Of course, he's not been through the slog of a season, particularly a difficult season yet. And I think he realizes that it's not quite as quite as much of an adversarial relationship in the college level, maybe as it is in the NFL, particularly in the Northeast, in a media environment like Boston. But the players, they enjoy being around him. And they say that he shows a different side around them, and you've been able to see some of that, during his year-long media tour, where he did so many podcasts and so many talk shows, and you could see him. There's a couple I've seen where he's talking with some former players, and he relaxes, and he's just in a different environment, and he can tell stories, and he loves history. If you connect him to a history angle, he can talk at length about things like that. So and he has taken some active steps to put more history on display around Kenan Football Center and the stadium, because he didn't felt there was enough memorabilia and enough tributes to so many of the great players that have come through over the years.
Yeah, I thought it was interesting this week in his press availabilities. Obviously, there's a connection between Belichick and Scott Frost from their time at the Jets. And he was asked a question, and I don't know if he researched it, Lee, but off the top of his head, he knew the round when he was drafted, where he played, his position. Like, he had intimate knowledge of his time coaching Scott Frost from over 30 years ago. I just thought that was interesting. That's your point earlier about his intelligence. He seemed to be able to quickly kind of give you a scouting report on not Scott Frost, the coach now, but Scott Frost, the safety and the special teams player from 1998.
I have no question that he just pulled that right off the top of his head. His brain is an encyclopedia, and he can pull out details of the football facility. The practice facility is named for a former Tar Heel player named Bill Coleman, who played Carolina in the mid 1950s and played for Steve Belichick, Bill's dad. And Bill talked about coming to Chapel Hill and how cool it was to see this name on the practice facility that had a direct connection to his dad's time here. And Bill was asked what he remembered about following Bill Coleman, who went on to an all-pro career with the St. Louis Cardinals. And he very quickly could pull out remembering watching NFL games with his dad growing up. And the two teams that they followed the most were the Chicago Bears and the St. Louis Cardinals, because both those teams had players that Steve Belichick had coached in college. But Billy, you asked him about old NFL teams that he watched as a kid, and he can pull names and players and games, just off the top of his head, and tell stories about what he remembers about some of those games and some of those teams.
We'll get you out of here, Lee, on two last questions. And we definitely appreciate your time. I'm curious, as somebody who's obviously been around college football for a long time and covered the sport, what is the perception nationally and sort of where you are of the UCF Knights? Obviously a program that, had a pretty fast ascent in that 2017, 2018 time period. Things have gotten a little bit tough in the Big 12 era. You mentioned obviously two programs in Carolina and UCF that were set to play before. Some interesting diversion between the two programs as well. I'm curious, from an outsider's perspective, what is your sense, or what is your kind of feeling or take on where this UCF team is, kind of from a national and from a brand standpoint?
Well, I think from perspective around here is because they've been on the schedule and had been on the schedule. Everybody had kind of been watching them since Scott Frost's first tenure there in 16 and 17, and going 13 and 0 in 2017. Maybe dropped off the radar under Gus Malzahn, but a quality Big 12 opponent, in the state of Florida. And if you play football in the state of Florida, you're going to be good. So this is a game that totally has Carolina's attention. I don't know what the odds makers are listing, but I would think Carolina would be the underdog coming in here, just because.
Last line I saw this morning was UCF favored by 7 by a touchdown right now.
Yeah, that sounds about right, because of just being on the road. It's a game that has everybody's attention here, and we're certainly looking forward in 2027 to having the Knights come up here.
Obviously, Lee, let's end on this. A great accomplished career you've had covering the Tar Heels. Tell us more about where we can kind of find your work, and some of the things that you've worked on. Again, you mentioned your book earlier, which sounds like a must-have for anybody who's both a Carolina fan and maybe a historian of college football. But tell us more about your work and where folks can kind of find and follow you.
Well, you can listen to the Tar Heels Sports Network. Saturday, I'll be on the sideline with Jones Angel and Joe Yock up in the booth. I'll look forward to that. I write weekly during football season on GoHeels.com. My feature is called Extra Points. It's easy to find. I'll have another story posted Friday morning at some point. And Football in the Forest is just about out of print, but I'm going to do another edition in 2 years to celebrate the centennial of Kenan Stadium. So keep an eye out for that. It'll be available on Amazon or wherever books are sold.
So you'll be in Orlando this weekend? You'll be on the sidelines, correct?
Oh, absolutely. Yep.
It's going to be hot, Lee. It's going to be hot. I don't know if you got a hat. I don't know if you got one of those little towels that you ring on you, but two things in Florida. It's either going to be hot or it's going to be a torrential downpour. There's no in between. So I don't know if you have a slicker with you and one of those portable fans, because you might need both on Saturday.
I'm ready for the heat. Nothing I can do about that, but I do have my rain jacket ready. And that's another element to this game, Adam, is it's been a fairly cool August and September here in the Carolinas. And this football team has not had to grind day after day in August training camp in the kind of heat that you normally have in North Carolina in August. I know the team is in good shape, but practice shape is one thing. Playing at home at 3:30 on a low 80s day is different from coming to Central Florida and playing in mid to upper 80s and that humidity there. So it's going to be interesting to see how well Carolina stands up physically in this game Saturday afternoon.
Yeah, I think I saw feels like temps in sort of the mid 90s during sort of the high points of that game. Now, again, cloud cover and rain obviously are always in the forecast if you live in Florida. So those are kind of things you just prepare for. But Lee Pace, again, you can find him at GoHeels.com, also part of the Tar Heel Sports Network as well. Lee, we appreciate you giving us some of your time. Look forward to seeing you on Saturday, and let's hope it's a good game for both teams.
Good. Thanks, Adam. Thanks for having me. We look forward to visiting Orlando.